Hey guys, and welcome back to Crafty D Sculpting. I'm Danny, and this week we're attempting a pumpkin reaper. Never tried this before. I'm stepping up my model sizes a little bit to about just under a foot tall now, so really trying to move up a little bit from the smaller models that I was doing, around about 9 inches tall. So yeah, we're stepping it up a little bit. We're really going for it on this one. I've really taken my time with this one, and it's taken me probably about 5 days to do everything, including the base. Now the base I'm going to include as a second video that we'll do as a follow-up to this one in a few days. So make sure that you subscribe and hit the like button and the notification bell and whatever else there is to hit buttons down there for, as it all helps me out in the long run, gets me up on the algorithm, gets me seen a little bit more, helps me get them subs up. And the more subs I can get, then the more determined I will be to get more characters out there on a weekly basis for you guys. So without further ado, let's head over and see how we get on. So we're going to start, as always, with the armature. Now I'm using 2.5mm aluminium wire, which I've got a long length of. I've bent in half and I've wound it together in a drill. You might have seen it in some of my other videos, but if not, go back, have a look if you want to see exactly how I do it. As you can see there, we've just got some floral wire and we're just finding his general shape. Now trying to figure out how I want him to stand, as I want 1 foot slightly higher, so I get another block of wood, just making sure that everything's right before we screw that down. Go, just getting the holes for his actual stance. We can get him locked into place. There we go. Now we're going to get his arms just put into place, exactly the same method. And to bulk out his body, we're going to be using original sculpting. Only going to be using a little bit of this just to bulk out his body, get him in the oven. Get him nice and cured, ready for his first layer of clothing. We're also just going to put a thin layer, just a very, very thin layer over his legs, because it can be a bit tricky getting the amount of clay that you want on it, and I do want to build up the layers of clay on his legs. You will see why later. There we go, he's ready. Right, so he's been baked. And now we're just going to get some liquid clay all over him before we put the first bit of cos clay over him. Now I'm using cos clay soft. I've really like using this stuff lately. It is my new go-to clay that I will be using on most of my sculptures. Funny enough, I've just ordered 3 boxes of it. Keep me going for a little while, because we need to know what I'm going to be doing next character. I still haven't got any ideas of what I want to do. I want to keep it on the horror theme, as we're still in October. As you can see here, I'm just working in his first layer. And there we go. As you can see here, I've put a few marks on his body of where I want things. His waistcoat to go there and a belt going across there. And now we're going to cut his waistcoat out. I'm just cutting one of the shapes out and using it as a template to cut the second one. Get there eventually. There we go. Looking good. So now we're going to use them marks that I put on the model earlier as a guide, and we're just going to fit these into place, working them all in, cutting around the arms. We don't have to worry about the back too much, as that's going to get covered. We just want the detail in the front. Right, making some slivers of clay. Now we're just going to put the Russells into his top. And we're just going to get all them wrinkles. We're going to start pushing them in with different various tools, just trying to get all the edges of the clay down before we move on to the silicone shaper. And get it in roughly how we like, all nice and smooth down, get all them wrinkles in there. Right, now I'm going to do his collar on his shirt. I'm like an idiot. Put on his waistcoat a little bit too early, so I'm struggling here. I'm going to have to cut that back. So again, if you attempt something like this, You might have to get things in different orders and you don't really understand what order they need to go in. It doesn't matter, it's clay, we can remove it and put it back later. And as you can see, I'm just trying to find the general shape. And I'm using the base of candlelight to get the rough, because that's going to be the rough shape of his head, the rough sides of his head. Now we're just getting some of the markings into his waistcoat. I'm not too worried about this, I will actually make them a little bit neater later on. Now marking out for the straps that go across. Messed up a couple of times there, just repairing that and making it good again. Now I wasn't too happy with his collar, so just trimming it down a tad. Before we move on to the legs, again just put some liquid clay on first, just helps lock everything in once it's baked. And we're going to build his legs up in a couple of layers. We're just getting a thinner layer on first of all, just to find the shape. Now we're going to move on to another bit of clay on the thickest setting on the pasta machine. And we're just going to gently layer this round. And then we're going to put all the ruffles of his trousers into this layer. Instead of adding layers of clay, I'm just going to literally push them in with the edge of a paintbrush. Just working in all them muscles and all the wrinkles and all the markings that you'd find in a pair of trousers. Not sure whether I was 100% happy with the way this turned out. Maybe I should have went with adding clay rather than trying to just mould it. But we've got to try these methods to see whether we like them. And if we don't try them, we'll never know. Start cutting out the bottom part of his, I don't know what you'd call it, his tunic or his top. It goes underneath his waistcoat and comes down into sort of a bit of a skirt around him. You can see we're struggling to get that on. We'll get there eventually, get the rough shape that we want. I'm not too concerned about the back if it's going to be covered. Then we're going to start cutting in all the rips and everything else into the bottom of that little skirted bit. Just going to speed up the footage for you. And you've got to remember I've got about 4 days into making this. 3 days in the actual sculpting, a day in the painting, and then we moved on and done a day on the base. So yeah, I've got to try, and that's hence why I've squeezed the base into a second video rather than doing it into this one, because trying to get 5 days worth of footage in, trying to get 5 days of footage into a 20-minute video, 20 to 30-minute video is hard work. Again, I'm pretty new to this, so trying to find out the best ways to do it all is challenging to say the least. Right, anyway. We're just getting his belt put onto place now, and now for the buckle, which we've just got a small sliver of clay, and we're just trying to get that general shape before pushing the edges all into place with a very small silicone shaper. Right, we're going to put in some holes for the notches in his belt and then put the other part of his buckle on. Done that, we can get the final part of the belt in place. Pushing in some details into the actual belt before putting the eyes. Put about 3 or 4 of them loop ties for the belt around his actual belt. I didn't show the footage of all of it, but we did put about, I think it's 4 on altogether. Now we're moving on to some more wrinkles. Again, I've gone back to adding rather than trying to mould them in. And I do much prefer the look that you get doing it this way. Just adding some extra details in with the Explorer tool, whatever it's called. Still have no idea what the tools are called. I had a subscriber turn around and tell me that I should call it pointy things and pokey things and other interesting names like that, which I think I might have to adopt. We're just giving his trousers some detail here. You might have seen I was just using the edge of one of my pointy things as a nice texture on it. But now we're moving on to his feet. Just finding the general shape. Cutting bits and pieces off, again trying to find that shape. I do cut too much off of the front there, and I do actually end up adding that back on. Now we're just making a little sliver of, well, a little bit of clay for his tongue of his boot before putting on the side of his boot, or so it comes up around the top of his trousers. And we're going to bend out the edges. We add some laces on there later on, off camera. Just refining the shape. Still haven't added his toes back on yet, but we will do that later. Alright, getting on to his jacket now. I'm just trying to find the shape of it at the moment and cut it all into around his arms and where we want it to sit. And he has been baked at this point. I forgot to mention, or shall I say, I forgot to show where we actually juiced him up, get rid of all the fingerprints with the isopropanol, put him in the oven. After that, we've got all this done. As you can see, I'm having to add some liquid clay over the top now, so we can get that nice bond. It took me a while to get this in to sit where I wanted it to until I was happy. I'm just working it all in. And we're going to add a hood on the back of that later on, so we don't have to worry too much about the back, the top half. Maybe I should have done this a bit earlier, but now we're getting, I called them straps earlier, but laces in between, holding his waistcoat together. And then we repeat that process for the rest of them. All sped up, of course. Right, now to get the, I'm not sure what these are called, lapels of his jacket. Someone can correct me in the comments. And we're just going to blend them in to the rest of his jacket. There we go, looking good. Right, now turn him around and cut all the back of his coat where it's been dragging across the ground and ripped over the many years. Doesn't get to go shopping often, obviously. And we're just going to tear in some holes around the side of the coat, just to add to that aesthetic. guess what we're going to be doing next? More bloody wrinkles. There we go. Working in another 100 wrinkles into his coat. And yes, you can imagine this does take quite a bit of time to get all these smoothed in. As you can see, using various tools, including my fingers. Fingers are probably one of the best tools to use actually with the clay, I find. Right, now we're getting to get onto his arms. Making sure we've got enough on there to get some wrinkles. Again, as you can see, I've gone back to the adding the clay. I really don't like the other method. I don't think I'll be doing that again in a hurry. Right, now to do the hood. As you can see, it's a little bit wrinkled where off camera I have been trying to roughly find the shape. And even here you can see it's taken me a bit of time to actually find how I want it to sit, get it all blended together. And all we're going to do is bend over the hood part of it at the top end of it and work it all in. Now we're just going to work that into the top of his coat, using a silicone tool to blend it all in. Just making some micro adjustments. Now we're going to add a bit of a belt going around his coat. And again, we've got to add them loop ties to hold the actual belt in place. Now onto his head. Right, with his head, we've got a bit of aluminium foil rolled up nice and tight, and then we've wrapped a layer of clay around it. I'm just going to push in, find the eyes, open them up a little bit, get the general shape before putting a ball of clay in each eye to be his eyeballs. Now we've got some fat slivers of clay which we've just cut out and shaped to give him a little bit of a menacing look, and we're just going to work them into the rest of his head. Finding his nose before scratching out where his mouth's going to be, and then opening that up. We want him to have that smirky grin on his face. Now we're just gonna literally run this tool up and down into his lip to give these nice cut out, affecting look, shall we say. And there we go, there's his head. So what we're going to do now is just segment with a paintbrush, just to find my little segments. So we're going to push in the top a little bit, and we're just going to put, not sure what it is, it's the end of the pumpkin, where it grows from, the stem. Work that into place, there we go. As you can tell, I'm not very good at these voiceovers, but we're giving it a shot. Right, he's ready for his final bake, I think. Get all the fingerprints off. Oh no, it's not his final bake actually. We're going to bake him before we do the hands, because we've got this to make, which is another head, and you might see there I've dismantled like a tea light, one of the little lights that you can get from the 99p shop, and we're going to actually embed that into his head once he's been baked. So now onto his scythe, as you can see, we've cut everything out before we got the recording. Just work it all into place. Smoosh that down, making sure the wire's in there. Because it's cosplay, it's going to stay nice and flexible after it's been baked. We're working in some wood effects into the actual handle. We've knocked out some grooves into the actual scythe itself, and we've added a ribbon. So we're going to make that the same colour as his like tunic later. So there's the head that he's going to be holding, and I've now got to get rid of that foil out from inside his head. Ta-da! Well, that's the majority of it out anyway. We get the rest off camera. Again, I'm not very good at these voiceovers. Keep tripping over my words. Right, because I want him to be holding the scythe and the head, I've left enough wire so I can bend over and trap everything into place. So they're pretty much locked into place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make the hands around them. So we've just got a big ball of clay, shaped it out, and we're going to squish that around before trying to cut in the fingers. Now I've only given him 3 fingers on a thumb. Just try to make the life a little bit easier. And as you can see, as usual, struggling like mad with the hands. It is one of the most hated parts of sculpting for me. But the more I do, the more I'm going to improve. Getting his thumb on. Once we've done that, we're going to get his collar on. Or the cuff of his jacket. Getting that all worked in. You've got to really work that in because he has been baked at this point, so you really do have to spend some time and really get that worked in. So he's been baked for his final time now, and we're going to start painting him. Now I'm just using a cheap old black matte acrylic paint that I've got from the works just to undercoat him, and I am going to undercoat his whole body in black. I really want him to have that dark undertone. Took a bit of time, as you can see, going around his whole body, making sure we've got every single last piece. Before moving on to his tunic, which we've done like a purpley colour. We've mixed 2 different purples together here. A darker one and a slightly lighter one, just to get that colour. I'm just going to move on to everything else, the normal colours, plenty of browns being used in this video. With the leather brown that we're using here, we do have to go over, well, there's quite a bit of him actually, all the orange as well. We had to go over 2 or 3 times to really get a nice colour going. As you can see with his head here, it doesn't go on quite nice with the first coat, so we do give it another 2 or 3 coats. And the same with this one as well. We start off by giving his eyes a coat of white, 2 or 3 coats of white actually, again, just to bring them back, and then later on we do go over them with a different colour. Use a mix of green and brown for his stem. And there we go, with a bit of yellow over his eyes now. Before moving on to his trousers. And the ribbon. Right, with his hands, I've just literally dry brushed some white on. Didn't want to overdo it. And what we're doing now is we've got some washes, and we're just putting the washes all over before, and then, well, putting it literally all over him and then dabbing it off with a bit of tissue. you get that dirty effect. And then we're going over and blending it all together with the dry brush before the final touch of putting the light inside of his head. Here we go, he's finished. And we're finally done with this one. The Pumpkin Reaper is complete with a base. Base is actually going to be on a second video, which will be in a few days time, so subscribe for that one, guys. But as you can see, he is come out amazing. All the detail we've got in there. We are going to have some little video clip in a minute, but underneath we've got a little torch, little light, shall we say, tea light. I don't know whether you're going to see that. It's a little bit light in here at the moment, but you can see the little tea light in there, little candle thing. And yeah, there he is in all his glory. Got his hood on the back, the belt, all the rips in his jacket. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the way he's coming up. So I hope you like this, guys. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know how you think I did. I'd love to see some of your characters as well. So maybe we'll have to set something up where we can see some of your work as well. That'll be that's something for the future. So I'll look into that one, guys. But yeah, please leave comments, please subscribe, please like, please do whatever you can to help this channel grow. Loki's saying hello. So until next time, guys, I'm not sure what we're going to have yet. I'm going to have a think about it over the next day or two. But yeah, we'll be back very, very shortly with another character for you. Until then, take care. Bye for now.